when a seed breaks through the earth is moved. It's not necessarily a graceful process. They said humanity is a time of reckoning. A reckoning is a facing of the self and all of one's creations, and that what has been created in fear needs to be reknown, reseen in a higher way. So I understand that these are the times that we're in now, and the guides have, they say this so consistently. This must be seen as opportunity.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Michael Sandler, your host on Inspire Nation. If you've ever wanted to know whether the world is going to end and what it means for you, then do we have the Alchemy show for you. Today I'll be talking with Paul Selig, medium and author of many of my all-time favorite spiritual texts, including The Book of Freedom, I Am the Word, Beyond the Known Realization, and another new favorite, Alchemy. And that's just what I want to talk with him about today, about leaving our old world behind and transcending to a new one. That, plus we'll talk about masquerade balls, yes, barren fields, God is Toad, and what in the world peanuts and full meals have to do with anything. So welcome back to the show, Paul. Are you ready to shine?
I am ready, thank you.
Woohoo! Please forgive me for asking, particularly before your first cup of coffee, but Paul, is this Armageddon?
No. I keep getting no, but I do get that it's a reckoning. And I've been hearing this for some time. And, the guides say a reckoning is a facing of the self and all of one's creations. And they also say that this isn't just happening at the level of the individual. This is happening at a level of country. At a level of community. They say, a country has karma, an individual does as well, but so does the collective. And we're having to look at what we've created and how we've attended to our lives. And they say that all of this stuff that we've been choosing not to look at because it was uncomfortable or inconvenient or too challenging is here to be seen. And it's here to be seen, not to blame it, to point fingers at it. It's here to see it so it can be reknown, reseen, or lifted to a higher way of expressing. So that's what I get about this time.
And your book does talk about the dismantling of structure. It's interesting. Yeah. It says, do not be distracted by this. But I want to know what they mean both by dismantling of structure and how do we not be distracted by all of this?
I don't know. Again, the book was channeled a year ago before much of what's creating, all this mayhem was present, but there was a fair amount then. The book is talking about the dismantling of structures, I think, in a couple of different ways. The primary one is at the level of personhood, who we think we are in relation to the ideas we've held about who we should be and what we've inherited through what they would say, I guess, is a template of history, the expectations that we're born into by being on what they call this octave or this level of vibrational expression that we're all sharing, what it means to be a man, what a government is, what an economic system is, these things that we enter into and are here and present. So they've been talking about the dismantling of these things in some ways for the last 3 or 4 books. Yeah. And here in Alchemy, they're really talking about the challenges we face when we're lifting from one level of vibration or coherence, which they say then supports the reality we experience, to the higher. And you can't go to the higher without dismantling the things that have been tied to the lower.
Yes.
So the personality self is undergoing this. I went through this in a radical and not very pleasant way while the dictation of this was happening, I have to say. And we're seeing it outpictured around us as well. The guide said in, I Am the Word, the very first book that was channeled now 11 years ago, they said humanity is a time of reckoning. A reckoning is a facing of the self and all of one's creations, and that what has been created in fear needs to be reknown, reseen in a higher way. And that, I think, is what we're going through. But they're also talking now, the guides, about, when a seed breaks through the earth is moved. It's not necessarily a graceful process. And when the new is seeking to be born, seeking to be revealed, the old is caught, is shifted, is challenged, and in some cases released. So I understand that these are the times that we're in now, and the guides have, they say this so consistently. This must be seen as opportunity. I don't know how we make it comfortable. I don't know that it's comfortable because it's the known. And we're releasing a way of being, with ourselves, who we think we are, what we think we should be. And, everybody else is doing it at the same time. It's kind of wild to look around and see this. But they do talk about it being productive. Productive, they say, is not necessarily comfortable, but always useful. And I hear in this case, it's really necessary. It's an opportunity if we look at it as such.
Thank you, Paul. There's a beautiful quote that says, when a culture moves beyond its small self, when a country moves beyond its small self, when a civilization moves beyond its small self, there is chaos because the aspects of self that seek to cling to the old will do their damnedest to maintain the old when the new is seeking to be born.
Yeah. That's it in a nutshell. They said it well. It's exactly where we're at. Although when they said it, I understood it more theoretically than practically. And now it's like, okay, this is what it looks like. I kind of get it. And I also hear that this process is really just beginning. It's an ongoing process of reclamation. And it's a reclamation, they say, of the divine. They say our only real problem is the denial of the divine. If we can work with that one, everything else will sort of fix itself in quite a wonderful way. But no, I don't think that this is easy, nor do I think it's what the small self would choose. The guides have said things like, you can only fix the roof for so long. Sometimes the house needs to come down and a new one needs to be built. And they've often said, their work isn't about fixing things. It's about, it's the teaching, behold, I make all things new. That's really what they're teaching. And how things are made new is what they're channeling about now in these current days.
Thank you. I'm wondering if you have conversations with the guides yourself, because there were a few little bombs in what you just said. First off, and I'm getting it myself in my own channeled writing, just beginning.
Yeah, just beginning. That this is an ongoing process. So I don't know that things go back to the way they were. There was a tremendous amount wrong with the way things were. I mean, wrong is my word, not the guides. They don't speak in terms of right and wrong. But, they've said it. They said it a few years ago in an interview, and it surprised me. But what we're doing now is we're seeing the blanket pulled back from the bed, and all the vermin that's been in the bed is being exposed to the light. We're having to see what we've been tolerating, what we've been party to or complicit with. You see, in the New Age, people like to say, well, you create this. And the guides say, yes, you're responsible for your own creations. But you're in accord, which means vibrational accord, with everything you see around you. The consciousness that you hold is informing matter. And everything you see around you, be it war, be it injustice, you are in vibrational accord with, which means your consciousness can transform it. And a lot of, I suspect, what we're having to look at now are the things that we have been in agreement to, and by that I mean vibrational accord, not conscious, intentional agreement, that needs to be moved or needs to be lifted to a higher way.
Thank you. How do we begin to do that? The question comes to mind, all right, Paul, I do the inner work. I move to the upper room. How is that going to change this entire world around me? That certainly, if you want to talk no mud, no lotus, we got the mud right now, Paul.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of different ways. I mean, the guides speak about service in a very distinct way. One of their attunements, and they call the attunements claims of truth, because they say what is true is always true, is, the claim, I know who I am, I know what I am, I know how I serve. And they say how one serves is how one is most fully expressed as the true self. And the true self knows. And when you're in your knowing, you may be called to act. Now, they're not about sort of sitting in a lotus position and saying, well, the world is beautiful. They are about realizing the inherent divine in everything you see. But they also say things like, you are your brother's keeper. And until you get that, you're going to be having some rough times. There's a great call to social action in their work. But the primary way that things are changed, as I understand it, is through realization. And the guides say to realize is to know. So part of what they do in their texts is they invite people to what they call the upper room, which is, they call it Christ mind. It's another way of understanding this. And aligning vibrationally at that level, they say then you become a beacon, for lack of a better word. And the vibrational field that you hold is actually supporting the reclamation of the divine in everything you see. So in some ways, it's like you become a tuning fork for the higher. They say you become a portal or a doorway to what they call the upper room. And they say as each one of you awakens, you awaken 1,000 more by nature of your presence. Now, it's challenging to talk about this stuff because I want to say, well, go out and do something. I gave money yesterday or the day before to an organization that I believe in that's making changes in the world that I think are important. There's something that I could do practically. Yeah. But the guides say very simply, what you damn damns you back. What you bless blesses you in return. And as long as we're busy damning everything, we're going to have a really, really rough time ahead of us. The guides have said you can't lift the evil man or those evil people to the upper room because you have made them evil. And by claiming them as evil, you've aligned to that level of vibration. It's a very challenging teaching. But the guides say basically the inherent divine must be present in everyone, or it can be nowhere at all. God is all things or nothing. You don't really get to cherry pick what's divine. So the process of lifting to the upper room is the process of blessing or reclaiming what you see. Now, I suspect, we live in a world where the idea of blessing something is convenient. What a nice idea. They bless the food at dinner. The guides are speaking about an act of alchemy, frankly. I mean, that's really what they're saying. They say to bless anything is to bring the presence of the divine upon it, which means outside of separation. To damn anything is to put it in separation. What you put in separation, what you put in darkness, they say, calls you to the darkness. And every time I want to get on my high horse and say, well, those people over there, and I do it every day, and I pay the price for it. Every time I do that, I'm reminded that the guides always say self-righteousness is always the small self or the personality structure. That's what it is. So if I want to operate from that place, I can. But I pay the cost, I pay the penalty for it.
So what if we did this? I like to run mountains. Apparently, supposedly in a past life regression, I said, give me the works before I renegotiated that contract because I was getting whacked with too many 2x4s. So I don't necessarily choose the easiest path. But what about if we hopped onto our own favorite news? I call it negative, worthless stimulation. And everything that we saw that feels wrong, we instead bring into our hearts and bless. And every one that we feel that's just insane, they're completely out of their whatever, we bring love and blessing to.
It ain't gonna hurt, I'll tell you that much. And you'll be healed through that. Now it's they're dictating a new book here on Maui. They're about 100 pages in already. I haven't even read any of the transcripts from it. It's like I don't want to know. It's just too much information right now. But they are talking about how matter is impacted by consciousness and how things are lifted and what happens. And the guides are pretty clear about this. They say there is one note sung in the entire universe, one note played, and they call that the word as a descriptor. Yeah. But that's just source, one note played. And they say everything you see or can imagine is an articulation or manifestation of that one note. Yeah. So we've been operating in this idea of separation or duality when they say actually that's a way we've chosen to learn. We can continue to learn that way, but it's not necessarily going to be a great time if we continue to. And they're giving us the opportunity to reclaim not only who we truly are, but what everything else is. So their work isn't, I don't think it's an intellectual teaching. I think it's it's a vibrational teaching that can be attended to. So if you claim yourself in the upper room, and the books teach you how to do this, Alchemy specifically is really teaching how to navigate this terrain. The act of lifting what you see or knowing yourself in the higher way, which by expression lifts what it encounters. In other words, the light doesn't try to illuminate anything. It does by nature of its being. If you're operating as the light, if you're operating in the higher field, by nature of your presence, you're shifting what you see. You're bringing light to it. It's less about the doing, and it doesn't preclude action. I want to say that. It's not, well, there's some new age thing where I just get to be holy all day long. The guides say you can't try to be holy. You already are. Your problem is that you've denied it. They say you can't make anything holy. It already is, but the denial of the divine is the challenge. And again, what we put in darkness calls us to that darkness individually and collectively. I think the really interesting thing about these times is that we're having a collective experience of change that cannot be denied. And how we attend to collective change, I understand, will be, party to where we go next. The guides I was channeling yesterday, I do these live streams on Wednesday nights. And the guides use this metaphor of a valley, and they talked about us being in a valley between sort of two mountains. It's a shadowy place. And they say how you choose from this place is very important, because what you're choosing will, come into being. And this is true for the individual and the collective. And they say some people are going to say, well, I want to stay here in this stuff because it's what I've known. I want to stay in the murky water in the shadowy room because it's what I've known. But the opportunity is for us to move through this and beyond the old ways of knowing ourselves, and that we're being gifted with this opportunity should we choose to take it.
Thank you. So many directions we can go with this. I guess first I want to dive into alchemy a little bit, then we'll go to the upper room, then we'll go to choosing.
Sure.
There's a term that I use. I call myself an alchemist, meaning to change energy. And there's a term I use to Tai Chi, which is Tai Chiing. Taking in something could be quote unquote negative. There really is no such thing, but taking in that energy and transmuting it into something else. What are they talking about by alchemy?
I believe they're talking about the realization of spirit in matter, that God is all things, and the realization of God in all things, be it, the rock or the tree or the human being across the street, the realization of the inherent divine reclaims the inherent divine that has always been there and been denied. And consequently, you're lifting the vibration of what you encounter. And if you're doing this from what they call the upper room, you're aligned to a level where fear isn't really operative. You've moved beyond that. And you're reclaiming things beyond what they've been known as or called or thought to be. You're actually releasing the meaning things have been endowed with to reclaim the true essence of all things. So, it's an old line in 12-step literature, and I'm sure it's probably in every mystical teaching out there in any, religious doctrine. But this idea that God is all things or God is nothing, you really don't get to choose. So God is the rock, God is the tree, God is the man across the street that normally you don't want to talk to, It's still of source. It doesn't mean you have to like them. It doesn't mean you have to agree with them. But how things have been known, they say, and how they've been claimed through historical data. And they say the small self only knows itself through historical data. How they've been claimed in the past has weighted them with meaning. So the guides, for example, say, every time you walk into a bank, the fingerprints of everybody who's ever been to a bank since the beginning of the very first inception of the idea of banking is present. The idea of bank as institution is heavily weighted through legacy. The idea of re-knowing things that we thought would always be there or the dismantling of the old to perhaps create a new system or a higher way of operating is, I believe, what we're being called to. How that looks, I don't know. I don't know if they've talked about it yet.
Yeah.
I don't think they have, actually.
I'll look forward to it. And for everybody listening, that screaming bird, you are on Maui right now. And that bird certainly has something that he or she wishes to share. We just don't have our bird translator on maybe at the moment.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like channeling. There you go.
So the guides have talked about in many books how to get to the upper room. It looks like that has changed a bit, or is more specific and more nuanced in alchemy. What can you share about this?
The teaching of the upper room was first introduced in the last book, which was Realization. The book that preceded it, Freedom, the Book of Freedom, ended with an invitation from the guides for the reader to step over a threshold. Mm-hmm. And at the time, I didn't know what they were talking about, but I got to go too. They made this little point of saying, Paul, you get to come too. And up until that point, they said, my job had been to hold the door. Mm-hmm. And now I think that the door have been the books. My job had been to deliver the books, which is being the doorway for them to do this work. So they left the reader, they left the students, because those books were all channeled in front of audiences. All of them are now. And then when they picked up for the next book, they brought everybody to what they call the upper room, which is a higher level of consciousness. The guides say the attunements that are already present in the texts are what will call you there, but there are certain claims. And the claims are, I know who I am in truth, I know what I am in truth, I know how I serve in truth. They say that's all claimed by the true self, the divine self. It's not the personality self seeking to divinize or make itself important. The divine, as you, knows who it is, what it is, and how it expresses. And then there's the claim, I am in the upper room. And then there's the claim, I am free, I am free, I am free, which is the release of the old, the release of the attachment to doctrine and what should be. Again, these aren't things parroted. They're really energetic attunements. You can often feel them. When I do this in groups, it's usually extraordinarily palpable. And then there's the claim, I am in the upper room. Now, the claim itself will carry you there. And it's often, again, palpable. You can feel your whole energetic field just shifting upwards. And the books take you there. But I don't know if it's more nuanced. I think what they've explained, which I really didn't know until they did, for years they've been talking about being in a chord, and they would always say A-C-C-O-R-D or A-C-H-O-R-D is on a piano. And I was always, well, that's a nice witty, thing for them to say. I suppose it makes sense in some way. But I didn't understand what they were really getting at until they unpacked it. And they're saying that each of these notes, these claims, I know who I am in truth, I know what I am in truth, I know how I serve in truth, I am free, I am free, I am free, are as notes played. When those claims are integrated and invoked in completeness, that's the manifestation of the divine self in the upper room. And that's the claim that they work with in the last two books, which is the claim, I have come, I have come, I have come, which is the manifestation of the monad or the divine self or the Christ within, whatever you want to call it, the eternal self. It really doesn't matter, in expression as in through you. So that's my understanding. For people that aren't familiar with the work, I mean, it might be helpful for them to just understand that the guides say we're operating in an octave right here. The reality that we share is a compilation of, it's all in tone, high, low, and in between. And everything that we see and experience in a collective way is in relation and of that octave. What the upper room is, they say it's the octave that expresses above us. Mm-hmm. And they say any song can be sung in any octave into infinity. Just because the ears don't hear it doesn't mean that the song can't be played there. And your resonant self, body, mind, spirit, your expression, how you've shown up, is what is being transposed to the higher octave. What your tone is in the higher octave through this thing they call entrainment, is in accord, vibrational accord to everything around you. So consequently, when you're singing or toning or vibrating at that high level, by nature of your being, you're lifting what you encounter to you. I think that's the best way to to try to explain it.
Thank you. So the question that comes to my mind actually has to do with mine, has to do with small self. If we do these attunements and we go to the upper room, and then our thoughts get sucked back down into, oh my God, what is going on?
Yeah.
Do we just directly follow? Now we're going back into attunement with a lower octave.
Yeah, that's my experience, unfortunately, so far. But I don't think it has to be that way. You know, let me see if I can. I should try to get this from them. I wasn't going to channel on the show because I'm without 3 cups of coffee. I'm incoherent anyway, and I'm doing my best.
You're doing great.
Thank you. So let me see if I can talk about this. It's the small self that goes back down. They're saying it's the small self that goes back downstairs. It relies upon the old. It relies upon the old. It relies upon it relies upon what it has known for convenience and comfort. For convenience and comfort. Imagine moving upstairs a room. Imagine moving to an upstairs room. Your belongings are still in the basement. Your belongings are still in the basement. You go to the upstairs room. You go to the upstairs room. You look for your old things. You look for your old things. Seek to bring them with you. Seek to bring them with you, be it your fear, your idea of who you should be, your idea of who you should be, how you should be treated, what it means to be a man or woman, etc., what it means to be a man or woman, etc. These things are released in the upper room. These things are released in the upper room. One of the ways you release these things, one of the ways you release these things is through an encounter with them, is through an encounter with them. Any aspect of self that has been hidden or shielded, that has been hidden or shielded from the great light will be seen and exposed, will be seen and exposed, so you may be delivered, so that you may be delivered from it. That is the action of the divine self. That is the action of the divine self in expression as you, and the claim I've come, and the claim I have come, the claim of rearticulation, the claim of rearticulation, or the manifestation of the monad, the expression of the divine through you, the expression of the divine as and through you is an act of reconciliation, is an act of reconciliation. It's only in a reconciled state. It is only in a reconciled state that you abide in the upper room, that you abide in the upper room. But we are teaching this. We are teaching this as a potential, and as a reality, for the ones willing to abide, in this realm, period. And they're saying period.
Thank you. So the big question that comes to me is when you're in that upper room, they use the term encounter with them. What does it mean to encounter, both on an individual and a collective, what is still in the basement?
Well, it becomes an opportunity. This is my understanding. So if I get my buttons pushed, which want to send me tumbling back down to the lower octave, the opportunity then is to release the button, so that I may be known beyond it. It's really very simple. What the guides talk about in this book, and I'll talk about this. They're saying say it yes. So the book Alchemy, I just know that there's a book due or a book to come. I don't know when it's going to start. And I was channeling at the Esalen Institute, and I thought that they would do the book there because I had 7 days uninterrupted with students. Nothing happened the first week, and I went, I guess they're not doing a book. The first night of a new class, which was the 3rd day, nothing happened. I said, okay, we're not going to do a book here. I guess it's going to come sometime. I went to bed. I woke up in the morning to news of the suicide of a friend of mine from my academic life, a man who I loved and admired enormously. And I was stunned. And I had to go from that news to sit before, a room full of, 50 people or so and channel. And I didn't want to be there. And I had nothing to say. And the guides started delivering the book that morning. And then they didn't stop. The entire book was channeled when my sense of self and my sense of security and all of my fears were being triggered one after the next. It was frankly the hardest passage I've ever gone through individually in my life, and dictating a book through it. And I kept thinking, this book is not going to make any sense at all. I had, because I don't, I'd look at the lectures sometimes. I go, well, I guess that makes sense. But I didn't look at it as a book until the whole thing was completed.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to sit down and read it, and I was astonished by the clarity. And what they were doing in the book was moving us through these places of shadow in the self. The guys say it in the book somewhere, I think. If you have a dead body in the basement, it's going to stink up the whole house eventually.
Yeah.
And these things that we put in darkness or don't want to deal with get dealt with. The claim that they work with, I have come, I have come, I have come, which they say is the divine self and expression, is actually what does this. So they say the inner light is actually encountering every aspect of self through that claim. It's a passage, but it's a passage of becoming reknown or reclaimed. They use all the resurrected. They use all that language to describe this process.
Thank you so much for sharing that, because I think that's what we're all going through as a collective right now. And they said it many times in the book. Dismantling. You were dismantled. And it is exceptionally uncomfortable because right now we can't tell. We're actually clinging. We're going to the guide's beautiful words right now, which they talk about. For some, it's going to feel beautiful. For some others, it's going to be a ripping out from underneath of the carpet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're needing to understand the dismantling. Well, go ahead, Paul.
No, I was just thinking, if I'm in this strange moment in my life right now, I think we all are, and we spoke about this in the last interview. I was in Costa Rica channeling what has been my last live retreat in New York City, where I have a home, was shutting down while I was there. And it was clear that I wasn't going to be able to go back there at that time. And I found myself in this place I've never been. And I'm beginning to have a completely different experience of myself and my life. And I actually feel so unattached to how I have lived my life prior and what it meant to be Paul, that I may not go back. It's so interesting to me. And it's not about location. It's about the unattachment to who I thought I was or should be. And I'm not saying that I'm done. I think there's much more to come. But I do feel in retrospect that what I went through has actually prepared me for another way of being in the world with myself. And I have to say, and this is still astonishing for me, because I've been hard on myself my whole life. I'm very good at that. The level of compassion that I'm starting to experience for my small self, if you wish, or whatever it is beyond what I've ever known. And I'm feeling very grateful for that. But I think the process of the book is a challenging one. When this book was when it was done, I think I said to somebody, I wonder if this book should come with a warning label on it, because you're going to have to face your stuff. And it's not self-help. What you're doing is you're bringing light to what needs to be reclaimed. But in doing that, you're becoming the light that you've always been. You're just really moving the things that have precluded the light that you are from shining. That's it.
It's like waking up in the morning before those coffees and seeing the bright light and going, ow, that hurts. That's so bright.
Pretty much. Kind of. Well, I don't get that it happens so fast. They've really spoken about this at length. They say we can only claim at the level that we can hold. This isn't a journey that you rush. You can only integrate what you can. They say if they were to bring us into a room that was too bright too quickly, we'd run from the light, and so we have to acclimate, we have to accept. And the attunements, I believe, work in degree, as we work with them, as we align to them, they become more party to our expression and how we experience the world.
Thank you. What does it mean to be sung in a new voice, or to be sung into a new collective agreement?
Well, they use the term sung as to mean expressed, how you're expressed. To be sung in a new voice. I'm going to ask them to be sung in a new voice. Means to be sung in a new voice means the articulation of your being, the expression of your being, the expression of your being has been altered, or lifted to a higher level of vibration, to a higher level of vibration. So that the tone that is emitted by the energetic field, supplants the old, has risen above the old, has risen above the old, and consequently can lift what the old encounters, can lift what the old would be an encounter in encounter. In other words, you are lifting what you see. You are lifting what you see through the vibration you've claimed, through the vibration you have claimed, period. And they're saying period. So that was sung. And what was the second one, please?
How do we sing in what they describe as you have sung in a collective agreement? So I'm wondering how we sing in a new collective agreement.
Well, I know what they've been speaking of recently, which has been interesting. They've said humanity has decided to progress, that the collective of all of us have decided to move forward in a positive way, and that what we're dealing with now are the ramifications of those choices, which are challenging because we fight these things. But let me ask what they mean. We would say it very differently. They're saying we would see it very differently. So we will explain it to you. So we will explain it to you. The collective as an identity. The collective as an identity has known itself in old ways, has known itself in old ways. You've been born into separation, or the idea of separation, or the idea of separation. You've acclimated to it. You have acclimated to it. You believe it to be true. You believe it to be true. It is simply an idea. It is simply an idea so entrenched, so previously agreed upon, that you expect it to be there, that you expect it to be there. In fact, you are not separate. In fact, you are not separate. You could never be. You could never be. We don't deny your experience of origin. We don't deny your experience of separation. We'll offer you this, but we will offer you this. When you are lifted as a collective, those things that you have damned, other words, shown in darkness, claimed in darkness, will be claimed in the upper room, at the cost of the old, the claiming of the new, the true identity of the collective, the true identity of the collective. You are all divine beings. You are all divine beings, even when you deny it. Even when you deny it, comes at the cost of the old. Comes at the cost of the old. The old is what you're seeing now, and the old is what you are seeing now. Place before you, asking to be reseen, or reknown in higher accord. Period. And they're saying period.
Thank you. So this may be a question for the guides. I'm not sure, but as we are going through this, it actually looks, I keep on telling people in my teachings, it's like looking at the old school mirrors that say objects in the mirror are closer than they appear, or are not as they appear to be. It looks right now on many levels like we're actually entering a time of greater darkness. And I keep on saying, no, this is the chaos that comes as we go through this.
Yeah. That's how I get it too. They're saying we will say it differently. You're choosing to learn. You are choosing to learn through the fear that you have claimed in prior times, There was no required to realize you no longer require. When fear stops being your escort, when fear stops being your escort, what you place your belief in, you'll be liberated. You will be liberated. The fear that you encounter now, what will come of us? What will the world look like? What will the world look like is still predicated on your old idea, on your old idea of what the world should be, when the world is made new. When the world is made new, when something is reseen, it may be beyond the small self's idea. It may be beyond the small self's idea, potential. The small self only knows itself. The small self only knows itself through prior agreement, what he was taught to see, what she was taught to expect, when your expectations are released. When your expectations are released, when you're no longer claiming what you think it should be, when you are no longer claiming what you think should be, you can realize the divine. You can realize the divine that is present now, and seeking to be revealed to you, period. That's what they're saying, period.
Thank you. So is there one, and it may be an attunement, is there one most important thing we get to do right now to begin dismantling this perception and going to the upper room?
I think this is happening with everybody, regardless of whether they're into this stuff or ever pick up one of the guides books. I mean, I think we're all being challenged. So is there a thing that will support an individual in going through this process? I'll ask that question. Several things, but the primary one is to see what you see, is to see what you see in its true potential, the divine masquerading as something other, the divine masquerading as something other. When you release the mask you've worn, when you release the masks you've worn, you can see beyond the masks others would wear. You can see beyond the masks others would wear. If you wish an attitude, claim peace, claim authority as the one who can claim peace, as the one who can claim peace. Do not fight your neighbor. Do not fight your neighbor. Do not damn your neighbor. Do not damn your neighbor. Comprehend your neighbor. Comprehend your neighbor as of God, even if what she presents is not what you wish to agree with, is not what you wish to agree with. When you claim another in darkness, when you claim another in darkness, or damn them if you wish, you sit right beside them in the dark cave. You sit right beside them in the dark cave. You have placed them in, and you're only released, and you are only released when you liberate them from the chains you have bound them to, period, in this thing, period.
Thank you. And I think this brings up a very good point, bringing it back kind of full circle here, where we were talking about it is a time to serve. I wonder both, this might get at the heart of it, the importance of serving and helping others, or claiming others in the light, or even knowing another in love. What is the importance of all of this, and what does this mean for the collective and the individual?
I have to go to them for this. We would like to answer this. We would like to answer this. When you see another in love, you are not operating in judgment. You are not operating in judgment. You are not operating in fear. You are not operating in fear. The action of fear is to claim more fear, Who you judge, what you judge, who you judge, what you judge, claims you in fear, and your logic would tell you, that fear is your accompanist, as the music you dance to. It is the music you dance to because it has always been there, and you should look at it, as necessity. In fact, it is not. When you lift to the upper room, I am in the upper room. I am in the upper room. I have come. You align to the level of identity. You align to the level of identity that does not abide in darkness. And there is no fear here. To see a world without fear. To see a world without fear is to claim a world in freedom. You have the ability to do this. You have the ability to do this far more than you know. But you dissuade yourselves. From claiming your true inheritance, and that is the kingdom. The kingdom is the realization of the divine as all things, underline all in the claim we offer. And the claim we offer, behold, I make all things new. Behold, I make all things new. The divine in expression, reclaiming itself as all things, claim is what will claim this world in the high octave, that is here if you wish it, period.
Thank you. I want to go back to a comment you said earlier about humanity choosing to rise up or choosing, but before I do that, I definitely want to go there. The question comes up from everything the guys just said is, well, then if we get to reclaim or claim anew, why did we incarnate in the old?
I hear choice, opportunity, but you chose this. And you're the creators of it, and you are the creators of it in most ways. The idea of separation is humanity's claim to resurrect, or to be reknown in the high octave, or to be reknown in the high octave is to reclaim your true inheritance, beyond the small self's conceit of separation, Yes, this is school. Yes, this is school. Yes, this is all opportunity. Yes, this is all opportunity to learn. But you have chosen in darkness. You have claimed war against your brother. And if you wish to keep doing this, you can, but you will not end well. But you will not end well. The time has come. The time has come to progress beyond the old, to progress beyond the old. This is specific. This is specific to these times, and the opportunities present themselves here, and the opportunities that present themselves here. You cannot go on as you were. You have the capacity to kill yourselves. You have the capacity to kill yourselves all at once. All at once. This cannot happen. This cannot happen. Need not happen. Need not happen. It would be a choice of fear. It would be a choice of fear, or the small self, or the small self seeking mandate to confer its idea of separation, to confirm its idea of separation, period.
Thank you. And thank you, guides. And I think I just heard the answer in there, but I will go there. Earlier, you had said the humanity has chosen to rise up. But is that, I wanted to give hope to people, but I think I heard something different from the guides. That's not a guarantee at this point, is it?
I get that we have choice. I get that we've been given free will. We have choice of how we want to work with it. And so I do get that it's up to us. What I have heard, which I find quite hopeful, is that the collective has agreed at a higher level, not at a personality level. The collective has agreed to this transformation that we're all undergoing. So it's a necessity for us, is what I understand. And we're going to do it. So that's the hope that I have.
So in translation, and I completely agree with you, Paul, 100%. If there's something larger than 100%, I'm there. We have all collectively, I'll call it in Michael terminology, on the other side of the veil, from the higher self, said, all right, we're going into this tunnel. It might not be easy, but we're going to get through this together. We have made this choice.
Yes, exactly right.
So the question becomes, and that's very hopeful, and thank you. I want to go back, although I don't want to reclaim the story, I want to go back to maybe to the guides. Did we choose, and they mentioned school, and I love that. Did we choose in darkness and choose separation for the expansion of consciousness?
I don't get that, actually. Nobody's ever asked that before. You chose it because it was something to learn through. It was an opportunity. It was an opportunity to know the self is singular, to know the self is singular beyond plurality, the return to plurality. The return to plurality. I am an individuated expression of God, or of the whole, is where you are coming to, as a soul progresses, as a species progresses, in an understanding of the collective. You move to unity, which is the rearticulation of the divine, which is the rearticulation of the divine beyond the idea of separation, beyond the idea of separation. You became so separate, believed the small self to be God, that you claimed to masquerade, You use it as an opportunity to learn, but indeed there are other ways you may learn, Imagine you're learning in a party. Imagine you are learning in a party in the basement. The party may be continuing. The party may be continuing in a higher floor, but the requirements of the higher floor are different. As are the lessons that you claim, as are the lessons that you claim. It is all opportunity. You are not being punished. You are not being punished, nor were you, by investing in this plane of logic, of manifestation, of agreement, and of agreement to separation, beyond it. You are simply moving beyond it, period. And I hear period.
Thank you. And I've got to ask, what are the guides hopeful for, or what do they hope to see us do?
Let me see. We would like to answer to know yourselves to know yourselves as you truly are, to love your brothers regardless, of what they present, to know God as of you, and of your brothers, sisters, and of your brothers, sisters, all things, the divine is here. The divine is here. It has not gone anywhere. It is you that have shielded yourselves. It is you that have shielded yourselves from the great light. The light is here. The light is here, seeking to find you, seeking to find you, seeking to be as you, If you say yes, it will be there. It will be there as you align, and agree to its presence, period. And they're saying period.
Thank you. Can we ask the guides for help, Paul?
I mean, I don't get that the guides are our personal guides. They're teachers. What they do say is that they sponsor, or they've got a team, or whatever, however they want to describe it, that supports their students. So a lot of people, express that they get direct support. Um, I'm not the guides. I'm the radio, and I never want people to confuse me, with that. I'm just this guy trying to get through it too. Let me see about how they help. We are available. We are available in several ways. In several ways, indeed, we are teachers. Indeed, we are teachers. Lesson require. If there is a lesson you require in the text that we offer, in the text that we offer to support the learning, we will support the learning and the integration of the lesson and the integration of the lessons for the students who appeal to us, when we teach. When we teach in love. We teach in love, but we do not placate. But we do not placate. We are instructors. We are instructors. We operate in healing. We operate in healing and in recognition of your true worth, regardless of what you may believe. So when we support others in their learning, we hold a high bar. We see you in your beauty. We see you in your beauty. We see you in your right to be. We see you in your right to be, in all you have known and may know, in all you have known and may know. And as we teach you, we realize the divine as you. We realize the divine as you, in spite of what you may believe, in spite of what you may believe, period. And they're saying period.
Thank you. Going back to the tunnel here, it occurred to me, there are so many people right now going, wait a second, I didn't sign up for this. I want things back the way they were. Do we have any choice now? We're on our way and there's no stopping things now?
I mean, yes and no. I hear yes and no. You can create identity. You can create an identity that seems to perpetuate the old, but the old is not present as it was. But the old is not present as it was, nor will it return as it was, nor will it return as it was. The earth has opened. The earth has opened. The old things are being exposed. The old things are being exposed, brought to the light. The fear that you lived in, the fear that you have lived in has become apparent in outside ways. You can no longer pretend. You can no longer pretend that things are as they were, that things are as they were. They will not be as they were. They will not be as they were. They will improve. They will improve in time, or move to a higher state, If you wish to lock your door, pretend the world is what it was. Pretend the world is what it was. You may succeed. But if you see this opportunity, if you see this as opportunity, it will not be hard a trial. It will not be as hard a trial as it may appear otherwise, period.
Thank you. I got goosebumps as I was thinking about this. Can you share with people what is the monad?
It's a term that they use. I looked it up finally. It's the aspect of the divine that is of the whole. You can call it the indwelling Christ if you want. The God within, that little flame that is of the great flame, that seeks to assume and unify with its source. But it's I would say let me get it from them, the monad. The monad is the expression of God in singular form, come through the individual in recognition of its source, It's the aspect of the divine. It's the aspect of the divine that unifies you with the manifest divine, in all things, is the seed. It is the seed that seeks to flower, that seeks to move forth, in recognition of its true nature, period. And they're saying period.
So then, thank you, guides. So then we are all God, or at least a part of God then?
We're part of God. I mean, the guides have been really clear on this. They've said you don't become the Christ. The Christ becomes you. This is not a teaching of the divinization of the small self. I mean, I get people walking around saying, I am God, I am God, I am God. But a lot of them are saying that from a level of, I think, personality or ego, So the difference would be is if I am of God, that means everything is. You don't get to have it both ways, It's not about being special.
Beautiful, beautiful. Just a few last questions before we do that. Where can
Uh-huh.
people go to find? I've always had. I say your book, Paul, which is interesting. How do you feel? They
Yeah.
are your books, but how would you?
I gotta say, it's confusing to me because this is the eighth book that's coming out,
Yeah,
in August, and the ninth is a third done, I guess. I don't know. My name is on the cover, and I'm not the author. I could say I'm a collaborator because I'm present for the teachings and I'm being used, and I interrupt them often enough that I become a character in the teaching.
yeah,
But just that's how it happens. But it's a very odd relationship. I operate as a radio. That's my job, and I look at this as my job. I don't think it makes me more evolved than anybody else. It just seems to be the skill set and this ability that's been declared and been developed through years of receptivity. But I don't think of them as my books. I mean, thank God they're smarter than I am. If it was my book about how to live your life, you'd all be, complaining about everything, which is what I like to do. I'm very good at that. It's my gift is to complain and and to say, what about me? What about me? The guys are far smarter than that.
So where can people go to find your beautiful co-creation, Go Something with the Guides Alchemy, and find
You
out more?
know, they're in the book. All the books are in bookstores. Alchemy will be in bookstores. I think it's on the 18th of August. I think that's the date. And you can get them on, all the online booksellers. Actually, there's a pre-order campaign up now.
Yeah.
On I don't even know the details. I probably should have had that handy. But if people pre-order, and there's information on my website about how to. You can download the first two chapters, immediately. It'll be out on audiobook as well on the 18th. So, anywhere you normally get a book, that's where you can find them.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I'd love to see if after Last Words of Wisdom you could do a little attunement or something before that.
Mm-hmm.
On the one hand, I want to go with the guides and I want to hear their last words of wisdom. On the other hand, I want to hear what Paul Selig is going through right now.
What I'm going through right now, I'm in this very beautiful place, having a very different experience of my life than I expected to have, not knowing when I'm going home or if I'm going home or what home will be like. And that's all okay. But I've realized that the way I was living, I was on the road for 5 years straight, pretty much. Half the month I was touring. And I'm not able to do that now. And I miss live groups. I was a classroom teacher at NYU for 25 years. I like being in a room with people for this work. But it's a very different life right now. So I'm just having an experience of it. And really, I can't tell you beyond next week what things are going to be or where I have no idea.
Yeah.
I hope I stay healthy. I hope everybody stays healthy, and that I learn what I can learn through this in a way that will be of benefit. So that's my hope and where I'm at. I can go to the guides if you like and see if there's anything they wish to say. We have several things. We have several things in the verses to the man before you, and the first is to the man before you. Is this Paul or Michael? To Paul. To Paul, where you sit. Where you sit is where you need to learn, is where you need to learn. That is true for each of you, and that is true for each of you. Wherever you are, it becomes your opportunity. It becomes your opportunity for realization, We would say this to the collective, if you see these times. If you see these times as offering realization, it can be claimed. It can be claimed if you see these times. If you see these times as terrifying, you will be terrified. You will be terrified. But if you invoke the divine, the divine, the presence of God, if you wish, the presence of God, if you wish, upon all you see, claim the divine as present. Claim the divine as present before you. Before you have a redeemed, you will have a very different experience of your day, of your life, of of your life and of the season you all share, and of this season you all share. Indeed, it is a season. Indeed, it is a season to be followed by others, to be followed by others. Nothing stays the same. Nothing stays the same. Your belief that it should, your belief that it should is what will harm you, is what will harm you. The effort to maintain an old idea, when the new seeks to be born, when the new seeks to be born is what claims you as fearful, period. They're saying period. So that's what I hear.
Thank you, guys. Well, we need to get your dog back to you, Paul.
Yeah, I know. I miss her. I'm feeling like a very bad parent, but she just got her rabies shots in New York, so she can make it to Hawaii now. That wasn't the case before.
Fantastic. She got her titer tests and all of that good stuff.
All that stuff got done, yeah.
Woohoo! All right. Would you
Woohoo.
mind? That is a big woohoo. Any sort of attunement or anything you'd like?
I'll let them do it after us, please. They're saying after us, please say these words. Please say these words. I know who I am in truth.
I know who I am in truth.
I know what I am in truth.
I know what I am in truth.
I know how I serve in truth.
I know how I serve in truth.
I am free, I am free, I am free.
I am free, I am free, I am free.
I am in the upper room.
I am in the upper room.
And they're saying period. That's where we'll leave it today. They're saying that's where we'll leave it today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guides. This has been truly special. And I believe we've had a snapshot. I feel like we get to continue this. We've had a snapshot of before, then right after Costa Rica, after you got to Maui. And I am seeing massive transformations in you in just a couple months now. And to watch how this goes, because you've had to let go.
Kind of, yeah. Still, every day.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
So
Bye-bye.
for everyone out there, this is Michael Sandler saying, be well, have fun, get alchemy, and begin letting go of the old to raise to the upper room today and shine bright. Woohoo! I just had such a beautiful, peaceful, go to the upper room interview. I'm almost without words right now, honestly. To check out more incredible interviews by Paul Selig and his guides, click here, subscribe below. Be sure to click on the bell icon to be notified of upcoming shows, YouTube premieres, live events with me, which are every Sunday night, and click on the link below to find out about boot camps, about mini master classes, about all of our classes, and even one-on-one, very limited ability, but one-on-one coaching with me. Love you guys so much. Shine bright. Woohoo! Love you guys.